I'm Tommy D from the KnicksBlog.com. On the heels of a big victory in the playoffs in Game 4, the first one in quite some time, we will talk about Game 4 and Game 5, which will be back in South Beach. Joining me are the boys, Moke Hamilton from Sheridan Hoops. How are you,
Tommy.
sir?
How's it going, man?
Brian Geltzeiler, Hoops critic. What's up, my man?
It's all good, TD. How we doing today?
It's great to be able to talk about the Knicks game after a playoff victory, which hasn't happened in a long time. Certainly hasn't happened in the history of TKB. So this is actually a pretty cool moment. The moment of the game, to me, third quarter, Bosh hits the elbow jumper at the end of the shot clock, I believe, gets the Heat up 11 points. Garden is dead. Who comes to the rescue? Not Carmelo Anthony, who we will talk about and his unfair criticism in the media, but Amar'e Stoudemire. He had his moment in the third quarter yesterday.
It's funny that you say that, Tommy. I feel the exact same way, and I kind of saw that yesterday. I was in the Garden, obviously, for both games 3 and 4, and I can tell you that the energy in the building and the way the team looked through the first half of Game 4 was exactly the same thing that we saw in Game 3. And sitting up there in the press box looking down, there was just this feeling that the game was over and that the season was over. And down by 11 with 8.5 to go in the third quarter, Amar'e just would not let that happen. Amar'e, in my opinion, he put his fingerprints on the game and he galvanized the team. He scored 5 straight points, and all of a sudden we go from being down 11 to being down by 6, and everybody in the Garden, you know, there was new life in the building.
Anytime a player gets a big contract, you know, there's always going to be that scrutiny. He struggles to close possessions with rebounds. We know his strength is in the pick and roll. He doesn't do a great job all the time mid-range and isn't a great post player. But I think Knicks fans understand when players have great moments, they become Knicks. And I think yesterday for Amar'e, I don't know about you, Brian, but I think he really had his first official Knick moment at Madison Square Garden, and that's going to maybe endear him more to the fans.
Well, he played with more heart and soul, Tommy, than you've ever seen him play in his 2 years in a Knick uniform. He was fantastic from an energy standpoint. His help defense, I've never seen it be that way. And the thing you have to remember about this player, athletically, he's not what he was. He lacks explosion. That didn't stop him yesterday. For the first time, you saw Amar'e Stoudemire change his game from an aggression standpoint, be more aggressive than he ever was, to compromise for the lost athleticism. And from that standpoint, 20 points, 10 rebounds, but more than that, what he brought and the way he contested that Dwayne Wade dunk in the fourth quarter, coming over and help defense. And I said it to you off camera, when is the last time that you've seen the Knicks, this year's version of the Knicks, not have a defensive drop-off with Tyson Chandler on the bench, which he was in the fourth quarter with 5 fouls? That is all attributable to Amar'e Stoudemire.
Amar'e gets the big stop at the end of the game. Missed a free throw. Carmelo missed 2, but definitely pushed and forced Dwayne Wade out to the perimeter and forced him into a difficult shot. I think people just kind of wrap in their minds, they think that a guy is just going to be that type of player forever. He has the ability to see the ball. He can become a better defensive player, and I think he showed that most definitely yesterday, specifically from a help defense.
Well, the thing about Amar'e is that I never really thought that it was a thing about effort when it came to defense. I thought that it was more about just principle, you know? Amar'e, I think the biggest problem that people have with him is that he turns his back to the ball very often, and he often doesn't even see when the guy that he's supposed to be defending catches the ball and lays it up, you know? But that being said, he has made some big defensive plays over the years. And on that last drive, when Wade is going to the basket, I had a flashback of Amar'e blocking LeBron's shot when they went down there and beat them in Miami last year. So I think that defensively he has been improving. I think that he has the potential to at least sustain the effort when Chandler goes down, to the bench. And, we got to see what happens in Game 5. Hopefully he can keep it up.
Carmelo Anthony, we just talked about Amar'e for about 3 minutes there. It wasn't all about Carmelo, and I think that's what a lot of people they say. Oh, you can't be critical of Anthony because when he wins, he gets all the credit. No, Amar'e got the credit yesterday. I think Carmelo before yesterday was getting way too much criticism, specifically from the New York Times and some of the other newspapers that we could call out. But ultimately, what it comes down to is Carmelo's playoff record. There needs to be a full story talked about. His run in Denver was very, very difficult. What else does he need to do besides get into the top 3 or 4 and maybe get home court advantage to get out of that first round? To me, I think that Carmelo is a player that needed a lot of help in order to be able to get through the Spurs and the Lakers and those type of teams out west.
He needed a ton of help. And, Howard Beck wrote that piece in the Times on Saturday, and he conveniently omitted 2009 in any mention of the run that Denver made, led by Carmelo Anthony, who played a great playoff that year, to the Western Conference Finals. And they were a couple ill-advised Chauncey Billups threes away from beating the Lakers and going to the NBA Finals.
A great Lakers team.
A great Lakers team. And the following year, Carmelo entered the playoffs. They lost to the Jazz in 6 games in the first round. They had Kenyon Martin hurt. They had Nene hurt. They had Chris Anderson hurt. His starting center with him was Johan Petro. At one point or another, any great player you want to look at up and down the line that gets far in the playoffs and goes to win titles needs help. Carmelo, for one reason or another through the course of his career, hasn't had significant help. Yesterday was the first time since 2009 you've seen Carmelo Anthony play in a playoff game with significant help with him.
I'm not going to call you out, but if the Heat...
I was getting nervous over here.
Maybe I will call you out. If the Heat get to the finals, that'll be the 5th team that Carmelo's lost to in the first round that's made it to the NBA Finals. If they win the championship, that'll be the 4th team that actually has won the NBA championship. So matchups are very, very key in this situation. You wrote something on Friday about Carmelo. Where do you feel now that he's actually won a playoff game with the Knicks?
This is great, and I think in TKBtv history, this is the first time that we're actually having one of these contentious moments.
I like it.
I like it too. My thing about Carmelo, all of what you just said is so fair. It's very fair. My thing with Carmelo and what I wrote on Friday on SheridanHoops.com was that I was disappointed in the fact that Carmelo himself could not galvanize his team to a victory. You're in Madison Square Garden, you're down 2-0, and if you lose this game, you know the series is over. And in that moment, LeBron and Wade both having horrible games at home in a game he had to win on a night he had to own, Carmelo did not have a good game. He was unable to galvanize his team.
Agreed.
The same way Chris Paul had a few nights prior, right?
Absolutely.
On the road, down to 24 points to maybe even a better overall team. So, I mean, all of that said, my frustration with Carmelo was more because of that single game. And I did mention the playoff record, but I think factually, you kind of have to mention that. And you have to mention the fact that they only got out of the first round after Chauncey Billups came on board. And his career playoff win-loss record, he's about a 60% win percentage. So, it depends on what side of the coin you want to look at.
It's all about being fair, and to be fair, they need to get into the top 4 next year to have home court advantage to get out of the first round.
And they absolutely should.
And they absolutely should, and they have to find whatever they have to do the offseason to make that happen is Glenn Grunwald's first and an absolute top priority. Maybe that starts with the coach. Game 5, guys, we'll be looking forward to talking to both of you afterwards, and hopefully it can continue.
Looking forward to it, my man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for letting me defend myself a little bit there, too.
Anytime. And remember, to get all your information on the Knicks, check out the knicksblog.com, part of the SNY.TV blog network. For Moke and Brian, I'm Tommy. We'll see you next time.